Saint Teresa of Avila identified 10 specific signs that reveal when a soul is suffering in purgatory. These signs are happening right now, maybe in your own home, and most people miss every single one. What happens if you ignore them? Teresa was blunt about that. The consequences are real. Teresa wasn't only one of the great mystics of the Catholic Church. She was a witness to what waits on the other side of death. During one of her deepest ecstasies, she was carried spiritually into purgatory itself, where she watched souls enduring a purification no words quite reach. What she saw stayed with her for the rest of her life. What she revealed can change how you see the people you've already lost. In this video, you'll learn the 10 signs Teresa identified as unmistakable evidence that a soul is crying out for your help from purgatory. Some of them are so common, you've probably lived through one without knowing what it meant. Others are so direct, they'll knock the breath out of you. If you believe the souls in purgatory need our prayers, type in the comments, "Saint Teresa, pray for the souls." Stay until the end, because the last sign comes with the exact prayer Teresa used to free souls. And you'll need the first 9 to understand why it works. Before we start, show these souls you're with them. Like this video if you want God to light your path, and subscribe if you want the grace of helping the ones who need it most. The year was 1562. Teresa of Avila, in the middle of one of her most intense mystical raptures, was pulled out of herself. Her body stayed motionless in her cell at the convent of the Incarnation. Her soul was carried somewhere time doesn't reach, somewhere suffering runs deeper than any living mind can fully hold. She was taken to purgatory. What she saw there marked her so deeply she could never speak of it without tears. In her writings, her autobiography, and especially her spiritual testimonies, she describes in harrowing detail the torment of souls waiting to be purified. But here's what most people don't know. Teresa didn't just witness purgatory. She was also given clear instruction on how these souls reach out to the living. For years, the Carmelite saint watched, wrote down, and taught her spiritual daughters about the ways souls in purgatory ask for help. These aren't isolated events. They aren't coincidences. They're specific, real, verifiable signs that happen in the daily lives of millions of people around the world. The problem is that most people brush them off, blame the imagination, or simply refuse to look at them out of fear. Teresa was emphatic on this point. Ignoring these signs isn't neutral. When a soul in purgatory manages to reach you, it's because a bond exists, a spiritual thread, a responsibility, a mission God has entrusted to you. It could be a close relative, a friend, someone who once did you a kindness, or someone nobody else on earth is praying for. That a soul reaches toward you specifically isn't chance, it's providence, and here's the heart of it. Teresa identified 10 concrete signs, 10 specific ways souls in purgatory try to reach the living to ask for prayers, masses, and sacrifices that speed their release. These signs aren't reserved for mystics or saints. You don't need visions. You don't need to be especially devout. These things happen in ordinary life, at home, at work, in your sleep, in the middle of an ordinary thought. The Church has always taught that purgatory is a state of purification for souls who died in God's grace, but still carry the temporal consequences of sin. The Catechism says as much, plainly. What Teresa adds is the living practical thread that ties those purifying souls to us, still walking this earth. Each of the 10 signs Teresa revealed carries its own fingerprint. Some are subtle, almost invisible if you're not paying attention. Others are so direct there's no explaining them away. And here's the striking part. These signs are still happening today, in the 21st century, with the same frequency they had in Teresa's own convent 500 years ago. Thousands of documented testimonies, from parish archives, canonization processes, accounts verified by church authorities, confirm these manifestations are real. This isn't superstition. It isn't folklore. It's a spiritual reality the Church recognizes, one that saints across every century have lived firsthand. What you're about to learn can reshape how you understand death, the life that follows it, and your own place in that story. Because once you recognize these signs, once you learn to read them and answer them properly, you become an instrument of release for souls who are depending on you. And according to Teresa, the benefit runs both ways. It brings extraordinary graces into your own life and into your own eternity. Get ready. Some of these signs are going to feel uncomfortably familiar. You may have lived through several without knowing what they meant. You may have brushed off an urgent call from a soul that needed your help badly. Starting today, that changes. The 10 signs Teresa named range from dreams to physical events you could put your hand on, from a thought that won't leave you alone to occurrences that defy any natural explanation. And each one comes with clear instruction: how to respond, how to help, how to carry out the mission God is placing in front of you. The first sign is so common, you've probably lived it this very week, maybe last night. It's something millions of people experience regularly, and almost nobody reads correctly. Once you know what it means, a lot of your past is going to look different. Sign 1. Dreams of the dead. The first sign Teresa identified shows up at the most defenseless moment of your day, while you sleep. Dreams of people who've died, but not just any dream. This isn't the warm, nostalgic dream where you relive a happy memory with someone you love. It isn't the hazy dream where you barely recognize a face from your past. The specific sign Teresa described has particular features that set it apart from an ordinary dream. These dreams are unusually vivid. When you wake, every detail stays lodged in your memory with a clarity that doesn't fit an ordinary dream. You remember exactly what the person was wearing, the exact look on their face, the words they said. It doesn't fade the way normal dreams fade over the following hours. It stays with you for days, weeks, sometimes years. And most telling of all, it leaves you unsettled with a sense that something's unfinished, that this person needs something from you. In her spiritual testimonies, Teresa describes several nuns in her own convent who lived through this exact experience, recurring dreams of sisters who had died. One nun dreamed again and again of another religious who had passed just 2 months before. In the dream, the dead woman always appeared in the same corner of the convent, watching her with a pleading look, never speaking. The nun woke each time with an anguish she couldn't explain, certain she needed to do something without knowing what. Teresa told her to offer masses for that sister's soul. After 3 masses, the dreams stopped completely, and the nun felt an interior peace that confirmed the soul had been released. The pattern repeated so often in Teresa's convent that it became standard practice. Whenever a sister reported recurring dreams of someone who had died, the community organized masses without delay. This sign isn't limited to convents or people living consecrated lives. It happens across every kind of person, every culture, every walk of life. Diocesan archives are full of testimonies from lay people who lived through exactly this. A mother who dreams over and over of the son she lost in an accident. A husband who sees his late wife in his sleep, always with that same look of need. A daughter who wakes night after night from dreams of her father, certain he's asking her for something urgent. 3 things make these dreams a genuine sign of purgatory, according to Teresa. First, repetition. It doesn't happen once. It repeats with a frequency you can't reasonably ignore. Second, the emotion that lingers. When you wake, it isn't simple sadness or nostalgia. It's a mix of anguish, urgency, and responsibility. As if you know, somewhere deep, that this person is counting on you. Third, an unusual clarity. These dreams don't have the blurry texture of an ordinary dream. They're sharp enough that many people describe them less as dreams and more as visits. Catholic theology explains this in a way that fits neatly with the doctrine of the communion of saints. Souls in purgatory can't pray for themselves, but they can receive the benefit of our prayers, our masses, our sacrifices. And God, in His mercy, allows these souls to reach the people who can actually help them. Saint Alphonsus Liguori, Doctor of the Church, devoted several chapters of his writing to this exact subject. He gathered dozens of documented cases of people who dreamed of the dead. Dreams later confirmed as reaching out from purgatory. In one of the more famous cases, a merchant in Naples dreamed for weeks of a former business partner who had died. In the dream, the dead man kept pointing to a specific spot inside a church. Curious, the merchant went and found an altar there, dedicated to the souls in purgatory. He arranged 30 masses at that altar for his old partner. The dreams stopped immediately. Here's something crucial Teresa stressed again and again. Not every dream of the dead is a sign from purgatory. Some dreams are simply your own grief working itself out, your own memory, your own emotions settling. The key is discernment. If the dream leaves you at peace, if it comforts you, if it makes you smile remembering happy moments, it's probably just your mind processing a memory. But if it unsettles you, if it repeats, if it leaves you with that unmistakable feeling that you need to act, you're looking at the first sign. What should you do once you recognize it? Teresa was specific. First, offer masses for that soul. The Mass is the most powerful form of intercession there is because it makes present, again, Christ's own sacrifice on Calvary. A single Mass carries more weight for a soul's release than 1,000 prayers. Second, pray a full rosary offered specifically for that person. Third, make some sacrifice, a fast, an act of charity, giving up something you enjoy, all offered for that soul's release. And here's something few people know. Teresa taught that when you respond correctly to this first sign, when you give the soul what it needs, confirmation often follows. Sometimes it's another dream, peaceful this time, where the person appears grateful or even signals that they're free. Sometimes it's a sudden sense of interior peace. Sometimes the unsettling dreams simply stop and stay stopped. Thousands of people have lived through exactly this. They recognized the sign, answered it with masses and prayer, and received confirmation that the soul had been set free. This isn't superstition. It's a spiritual reality the Church has recognized since her earliest centuries. But there's something even more unsettling than a dream. The second sign Teresa identified happens while you're wide awake, going about an ordinary afternoon. And once you feel it, you'll know it isn't your imagination. Sign 2. A presence in your own home. You're home alone. It's mid-afternoon, sunlight coming through the windows. Nothing about the moment should feel unsettling. And then, out of nowhere, you feel it. That unmistakable sense that someone else is in the room. It isn't a thought, it's a certainty, arriving from somewhere below thought. You turn, expecting to see someone. Nobody's there. But the feeling doesn't go away. You know you're not alone. This is the second sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. It's far more common than most people realize. Thousands feel it regularly and chalk it up to nerves, imagination, exhaustion. They dismiss it. But Teresa was clear. When this sensation carries certain features, it's a real sign, and it shouldn't be waved away. At the convent of San Jose in Avila, the first convent of the Teresian reform, this happened often enough that the sisters learned to recognize it right away. Teresa recorded several cases in her own writing. One sister regularly felt a presence in the chapter room, always in the same corner, always around the same hour of the afternoon. It wasn't frightening exactly, but it was unsettling. She described the air in that spot as different, heavier, thicker somehow. Teresa looked into it and learned that years earlier, in that exact corner, a nun had died suddenly without the last sacraments she had hoped for. She had died in God's grace, but her soul remained in purgatory. Once the community offered masses and prayers for her, the presence stopped. This sign doesn't only happen in convents or sacred spaces. It happens in ordinary homes with ordinary families. And it follows patterns specific enough that Teresa taught her spiritual daughters to recognize 5 clear markers. The first is location. The presence is always felt in the same spot in the house, a particular room, a hallway, a corner of the living room. It isn't a vague, house-wide sensation. It's concentrated in one place. Often that place connects to the person who died. Their favorite room, where they spent their final days, where they liked to sit. The second is repetition over time. It doesn't happen once. It repeats with some regularity, sometimes at the same hour. Every night, every evening, every few days. There's a rhythm to it that becomes impossible to overlook once you're paying attention. The third is a physical sensation that comes with the presence. It isn't only mental. Your body reacts. The hair on your arms stands up. You feel a shift in temperature, usually cold, and not explained by any draft or open window. Some people describe pressure in the chest, as if the air itself had thickened. Others feel a prickling at the back of the neck. The fourth, and this one matters, is the absence of paralyzing terror. Even though the sensation is unsettling, it doesn't produce the kind of overwhelming fear something demonic would bring. Teresa was firm on this point. Souls in purgatory aren't trying to frighten you or hurt you. They want your help. Their presence, however unsettling, tends to produce discomfort and unease rather than panic. Something that nudges you into action rather than freezing you in place. The fifth is an intuition about who it is. In many cases, even without seeing anything, something in you knows or suspects exactly who it is. A relative who recently died, a neighbor, someone who once lived in that house. It isn't always certainty, but there's a persistent intuition tying the presence to a specific person. Canonization archives are full of testimonies about this kind of manifestation. Saint John Vianney, the Curé of Ars, felt it many times in his own parish house. He would sense a specific presence and, through prayer and discernment, identify which soul in purgatory it belonged to. He'd offer masses, and the manifestations would stop. Saint Catherine of Genoa, another great mystic and expert on purgatory, wrote about how certain souls draw close to places they lived, or to people they were bound to, searching for prayers and sacrifices. She explained that these souls can't help themselves. God allows them to reach out so the living can help them instead. What should you do once you recognize this second sign? First, don't be afraid. Remember, these are souls seeking help, not entities trying to harm you. Second, pray right away. An Our Father, a Hail Mary, an eternal rest offered for that soul in the moment can bring instant relief. Third, ask around quietly. If you have a guess who it might be, ask family, neighbors, anyone who knows the history of the place. You'll often find connections you didn't expect. Fourth, and most important, offer a mass for that soul. If you can, have it celebrated in that same place or at the nearest parish. The mass carries a power nothing else matches. Teresa taught that a single mass, well offered, can free a soul from purgatory instantly, depending on how much purification remained. Countless families have lived with a presence in their home for months, sometimes years, until they finally offered the necessary masses and everything stopped. Peace returned to the house. The unease disappeared, and in many cases, they received confirmation through a dream and intuition that the soul had been freed and was grateful. But if you thought that sign was unsettling, wait until you hear the third. Because this next manifestation doesn't happen in a physical place. It happens inside your own mind, in your own thoughts, with a persistence that's impossible to shake off. And once you live it, you'll know you're not imagining things. Sign 3. A thought that won't let go out of nowhere. You find yourself thinking about someone who died. It isn't an occasional nostalgic memory. It's a thought that pushes its way into your mind, interrupting whatever you were doing. You're at work and suddenly their face is right there. You're mid-conversation and their name slips out without meaning to. You're trying to fall asleep and your mind keeps circling back to that person over and over. You can't shake it loose. You try to distract yourself. The thought comes back anyway. Hours pass, then days, then weeks, and this person who's already gone keeps taking up a space in your mind that doesn't make sense. There's no anniversary, no birthday, nothing that would explain why this memory won't leave you alone. It's simply there, constant, insistent, almost obsessive. This is the third sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory needing your help. And it's particularly telling because it happens at the most private level there is, inside your own thoughts. Teresa taught her nuns that souls in purgatory, unable to pray for themselves or earn anything new toward their own salvation, depend entirely on the living. And God, knowing this, allows these souls to reach us in ways we can't easily ignore. One of the most effective is exactly this, settling into our thoughts over and over until we finally pay attention. In the Foundations, Teresa tells of a spiritual daughter who lived through exactly this. For weeks, the nun couldn't stop thinking about her father, dead for years already. The thought was so persistent it interfered with her prayer and her work around the convent. She felt guilty, assuming it was disordered attachment, a failure of detachment. But Teresa, with her characteristic discernment, recognized immediately what was happening. She told the nun to offer masses and specific prayers for her father over 9 straight days. By the 3rd day, the thoughts had started to ease. By the 9th, they stopped completely. The nun's peace returned, and she never lived that obsession again. Teresa confirmed that the father's soul had been released from purgatory through those masses. This sign has features that set it apart from ordinary memory or the natural process of grief. The first is a sudden onset. It isn't that you've always thought about this person a great deal. It's that, without warning, this constant mental presence begins. It might be someone you hadn't thought about in months or years. The second is a persistence that defies explanation. No matter how hard you try to distract yourself or focus elsewhere, the thought comes back. It's as if that person were calling to you from somewhere beyond, tapping at your mind again and again until they finally get your attention. The third is a sense of responsibility riding alongside the thought. It isn't just remembering the person. It's the sense that you should be doing something for them. An inner unease that tells you this soul needs you. Many people describe it as a weight on the conscience, like forgetting something important you're supposed to do. The fourth, and this one matters, is a certain urgency. It isn't something you can put off indefinitely. You feel it's something you need to attend to now, that it can't wait much longer. It's almost as though the soul was saying, "Help me, please. I need you now." Saint Alphonsus Liguori, doctor of the Church and a great devotee of the Holy Souls, documented dozens of similar cases. One particularly moving case involved a priest who couldn't stop thinking about a parishioner who had died months earlier. The thought was so persistent the priest could barely focus on his duties. He finally offered 30 consecutive masses for that soul. During the last mass, he felt an absolute interior certainty that the soul had been freed. The obsessive thoughts stopped immediately. What makes this third sign fascinating is that it often involves people who weren't especially close to you in life. A distant acquaintance, a co-worker you barely spoke to, a neighbor you occasionally waved at. And that's exactly what makes the sign so clear. There's no natural reason you'd be thinking about this person so much. The reason is supernatural. Teresa taught that when God allows a soul to reach into your thoughts this way, it's because some spiritual thread connects you to that soul. Maybe they once did something for you that you never properly thanked them for. Maybe something was left unresolved before they died. Or maybe you're simply the one person in a position to help because nobody else is praying for them. What should you do when you recognize this third sign? First, don't dismiss it. If you've been thinking obsessively about someone who died and there's no reason for it, take it seriously. Second, offer prayers for that soul right away. A full rosary, the litany of the holy souls, short prayers scattered through your day. Third, arrange at least one mass for that person, or several if you can. And here's something Teresa stressed. When you offer these prayers, be specific. Say the person's name out loud while you pray. Say, Lord, I offer this prayer for the soul of so-and-so who is in purgatory. Specificity matters. A generic prayer for all souls isn't the same as one offered by name for the soul reaching out to you. Thousands have lived this sign and answered it correctly. The testimonies pile up. Once the prayers are offered, the obsessive thought disappears. The mind settles. And often, as confirmation, another sign follows to show the soul has been freed. But if you thought this sign was hard to ignore, wait for the fourth. Because the next manifestation involves events in the physical world that defy natural explanation. And once it happens to you, you'll know beyond doubt that something beyond the visible is reaching out. Sign 4. Coincidences that aren't coincidences. You turn on the radio and your late mother's favorite song is playing. You glance at the clock, 3:33, the exact hour your grandfather died. You open a book at random and your eyes land on a line your late brother used to repeat constantly. A text message arrives and the phone number carries the same digits as your late husband's birthday. 1, 2, 3, 10 coincidences in a row. Too many to be chance. This is the fourth sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. It's among the most unsettling because it involves physical events that seem arranged with mathematical precision. These aren't imagined. They aren't a matter of interpretation. They're objective, verifiable facts that occur with a frequency that shouldn't be statistically possible. Teresa documented several cases of this exact kind in her convents. One of the most striking involved a nun who had just died. For 9 days after her death, the convent church bells rang on their own, exactly at 3 p.m, the hour of the Divine Mercy prayer that nun had promoted with special devotion during her life. Every attempt to find a mechanical cause failed. Nothing was wrong with the bells. Only after the community offered the novena of masses did it finally stop. These coincidences don't only happen in convents or obviously religious settings. They happen in the daily lives of millions of ordinary people. And Teresa taught how to recognize the patterns that reveal when these synchronicities are genuine signs from purgatory. The first pattern is the repetition of specific elements. It isn't one isolated coincidence. It's multiple events built around the same numbers, the same dates, the same songs, the same phrases. A woman whose husband died on the 15th of the month starts seeing 15 everywhere. License plates, receipts, room numbers, pages she opens at random. The frequency is high enough to defy the odds. The second pattern is an immediate emotional pull. When the coincidence happens, it doesn't register as neutral. It hits you, a catch in your chest, skin prickling, a sudden, intense emotion connecting you instantly to the person who died. It's as if, in that moment, they were saying, "I'm here, don't forget me, I need your help." The third pattern is a clustering in time. These coincidences don't spread evenly across months or years. They arrive in clusters, a few intense days or weeks, It's as if the soul were making a concentrated effort to get your attention, multiplying the signs until you finally notice. The fourth pattern, and this one's especially telling, is that the coincidences involve things that mattered to the person while they were alive. Not generic symbols, specific things they loved, repeated, collected, or valued. The song they hummed in the shower, the number they considered lucky, a phrase they used to sign their emails, the scent of a perfume that shouldn't be there and somehow is. Padre Pio experienced these manifestations countless times. He had a particular gift for recognizing when souls in purgatory were reaching out. Once, a man told him that for weeks white butterflies kept appearing in impossible places, inside his locked car, in his 10th floor office, resting on specific documents. Padre Pio discerned immediately that it was the man's mother who had collected butterfly figurines while she was alive. He told the man to offer masses for her. After the third mass, the butterflies stopped appearing. The verified testimonies pile up. A woman in Spain described finding old coins in the strangest places after her father died. Inside books that had been shut for years, in the pockets of freshly washed clothes, on her pillow when she woke. Her father had been a passionate coin collector. Once she offered a novena of masses for him, the coins stopped appearing. A man in Mexico described his kitchen light flickering every night at exactly 9 o'clock, the hour he and his late wife used to sit down for dinner together. For 2 months, electricians checked the wiring and found nothing wrong. Finally, a priest suggested he offer masses for her. After 30 masses, the flickering stopped for good. What's striking about this fourth sign is that many of these coincidences involve details only you and the deceased ever knew. Private jokes, secret nicknames, places only the two of you visited. That rules out the possibility that any of it is invented, because it involves information nobody else could reproduce. Teresa taught that these material manifestations are permitted by God as acts of mercy toward the souls in purgatory. These souls can't do anything for themselves, but God allows the material world to respond in extraordinary ways to catch the attention of the living. It's as though creation itself joins in the plan to set these souls free. What should you do when you recognize this fourth sign? First, keep a record. Write down each coincidence with the date and time. You'll see patterns that confirm it isn't your imagination. Second, give thanks. When a synchronicity happens, say out loud, "Thank you for this sign. I hear you. I'll help you." The soul will feel your response. Third, act right away. Don't wait for more signs to pile up. Offer a mass, pray a rosary, make a sacrifice for that soul as soon as you can. Fourth, hold on to your faith that these signs are real. Modern materialism will try to convince you it's all coincidence, that nothing exists beyond the visible. But Teresa and the saints and millions of verified testimonies across the centuries all confirm these manifestations are genuine. But if these material coincidences already felt overwhelming, wait until you hear the fifth sign. Because the next manifestation doesn't touch outside objects or outside events. It touches your own body, your own emotional state, in ways no doctor can explain. And once you live it, you'll understand just how real and physical the connection between this world and purgatory truly is. Sign 5. Await. No doctor can explain. You wake up exhausted for no reason. You've slept your full 8 hours, done nothing physically demanding, and yet you feel as though you'd carried stones all night. Your muscles are tight. Your chest carries a pressure that has nothing to do with your heart. You go to the doctor and every test comes back clean. But the discomfort stays, or without warning, a deep sadness settles over you. An anxiety with no source you can name. No bad news, no personal crisis unfolding. Just this heaviness, constant draining. This is the fifth sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. It's especially unsettling because it touches your own body, your own spirit directly. It isn't something you observe from the outside. It's something you feel in your own flesh. Teresa herself lived this sign personally, many times over the course of her life. In her autobiography, she describes periods of intense physical pain, chest pressure, extreme fatigue, and a deep melancholy that no medicine of her time could ease. Only through prayer and spiritual discernment did she come to understand that much of what she carried were spiritual burdens, passed to her by souls in purgatory in need of prayer. In her spiritual testimonies, Teresa explains how certain souls in purgatory can communicate their suffering to the living so tangibly that the person feels in their own body an echo of the purifying pain those souls are enduring. It isn't that the soul means to hurt you. It's that the weight of their suffering is so great it spills over, so to speak, onto those with whom they share a spiritual bond. This manifestation carries features distinct from psychosomatic illness or genuine medical conditions. The first is sudden onset with no identifiable cause. No traumatic event explains the anxiety. No illness explains the fatigue. It simply arrives overnight without warning. The second is resistance to ordinary treatment. You take painkillers and the pain doesn't ease. You try relaxation techniques and the anxiety persists. You see doctors, therapists, get various diagnoses, and nothing produces real improvement. It's as though the source of the discomfort isn't physical or psychological at all, but something deeper. The third is intensification at specific moments. The discomfort isn't constant at the same intensity. It sharpens at certain times of day, in certain places, or when you think of a particular person who's died. You can feel relatively fine for hours, then suddenly, passing a certain spot or recalling someone, the weight multiplies instantly. The fourth, and this is the most revealing, is immediate relief when you offer prayer or sacrifice. When you pray for the souls in purgatory, when you offer a mass, when you make a specific sacrifice for someone who died, you feel a release right away. The physical pain eases, the anxiety lifts, the exhaustion lightens. It's as if helping that soul also heals you. Saint John Vianney lived this experience intensely. For years he suffered severe physical pain, especially at night, that doctors couldn't explain. Through spiritual discernment, he came to understand he was carrying the suffering of souls in purgatory. Rather than reject that cross, he embraced it, offering his own body as an instrument for their release. Every Mass he celebrated for them brought him temporary relief. Saint Faustina Kowalska, the great apostle of divine mercy, documented similar experiences in her diary. She describes souls in purgatory appearing to her, asking for prayer, and her feeling part of their suffering physically. In one entry, she wrote of feeling in her own body the torment a certain soul was enduring, and understood in that single moment how terrible purgatory truly is. This sign isn't reserved for saints and mystics. Ordinary people with no particular vocation experience it regularly. A woman in Argentina described unbearable headaches after her sister died. Headaches no neurologist could explain. After 2 months of suffering, a priest suggested she offer masses for her sister. After the first Mass, the pain eased. After the third, it disappeared entirely. A man in Italy described paralyzing anxiety with no apparent cause after his father's death. Psychiatrists prescribed medication that barely helped. Finally, on his parish priest's advice, he arranged 30 masses for his father. As the masses were offered, the anxiety episodes spaced further apart until they stopped completely. What makes this fifth sign particularly hard to accept is that our culture always reaches for a purely physical or psychological explanation. Feeling tired must be anemia. Feeling anxious must be a disorder. The spiritual dimension gets ignored entirely. But Teresa insisted we can't reduce a human being to matter alone. We are body, mind, and spirit, and what happens on the spiritual plane touches the other two directly. What should you do when you recognize this fifth sign? First, rule out real medical causes. Don't ignore physical symptoms without seeing a professional. But if the tests come back clean and treatment isn't working, take the spiritual dimension seriously. Second, offer masses and prayers for the souls in purgatory, especially anyone you had a bond with. See whether your discomfort improves afterward. Third, seek spiritual guidance. Talk to a priest you trust, someone experienced in discernment. The Church carries 2,000 years of wisdom on this. You don't have to work it out alone. And fourth, carry this cross with love if it comes. If God allows you to bear part of a soul's suffering temporarily, it's because He trusts you, because He knows you can carry it, and because that soul desperately needs your help. But if feeling a soul's suffering in your own body already felt intense, wait for what comes next. Because the following two signs bring outside confirmation. It won't just be your own experience anymore. Other people close to you will sense that something beyond the ordinary is happening. And that shared confirmation will erase any doubt you might still be holding on to. Sign 6. When others feel it too. Every sign so far could be dismissed as personal, subjective, something only you lived through. You could doubt it. You could wonder if it's your imagination, if you're misreading things, seeing patterns where none exist. But the sixth sign Teresa identified closes off that possibility entirely. Because this time, you're not the only one perceiving it. Other people are too. People who know nothing of your suspicions, who aren't influenced by your thoughts, and who independently confirm that something real is happening. You're home with your family, and your 5-year-old, who's never been told anything about your late grandmother, suddenly asks, "Mommy, who's the older lady standing by the window?" You don't see anything, but your daughter describes, in exact detail, clothing your grandmother used to wear.
Or you're visiting the family house with your brother, and both of you, at the same moment, feel that same unexplainable cold in the same room. Without a word exchanged between you, you both sense the same presence in the same place. This is the sixth sign. Social validation, a shared confirmation that what you're experiencing isn't something you invented. And it's one of the strongest proofs that souls in purgatory really do reach out.
Teresa documented several cases in her convents where different nuns, independently and without talking to one another, reported the same experiences. At the convent of San Jose, 3 different sisters, on 3 different days, felt the same presence in the choir during Vespers. Each described the same sensation, someone praying beside them, always in the same exact spot. When they finally compared notes, they realized all 3 had perceived exactly the same thing. Teresa investigated and learned that spot in the choir had been the favorite place of a nun who had died years earlier, a sister who had died without finishing certain penances she had promised to complete. The community offered masses and special prayers for her. Afterward, none of them felt that presence again. This shared confirmation doesn't only happen among adults or religious. It happens often with children, and that's especially telling because young children don't carry the mental filters adults build up over time. They perceive spiritual realities with a clarity many of us have lost. Christ Himself said, "Unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." Testimonies from children who see or sense the dead are countless. A mother in Colombia described her 4-year-old insisting that Grandpa came to visit him at night and sat at the foot of his bed. The boy described specific details about a grandfather who had died before he was even born, details no one had told him. The family arranged masses for the grandfather and the visit stopped. This sixth sign carries enormous weight because it rules out the possibility of individual self-suggestion or imagination. When several people, especially including children, sense the same thing without any communication between them, the evidence becomes hard to argue with. What should you do when you experience this kind of shared confirmation? First, don't dismiss what others tell you, especially children. If a child says they see someone, take it seriously. Ask calmly what they're seeing without leading them toward an answer. Second, compare experiences with other family members or people close to you. You'll often discover you weren't the only one who noticed something. Third, act together. When a whole family recognizes a soul reaching out, they can offer collective suffrages that carry their own particular power. Now we come to the seventh sign, and this one is especially moving because it happens in the most sacred place on earth, during the celebration of the Holy Mass, or in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. Sign 7. A presence during Mass. Teresa was absolutely clear on this point. Souls in purgatory feel an irresistible pull toward wherever the Eucharist is celebrated. The Mass is the most powerful act that exists for freeing souls from purgatory, because in it, Christ's own sacrifice on Calvary is made present again. The souls know this. That's why they draw near during Mass in ways that can, at times, be felt. You're at Mass during the consecration, and suddenly you feel an intense presence behind you. You glance back discreetly and see no one. Still, the feeling is so real you could almost swear someone is standing right behind your pew. Or you're before the tabernacle, in adoration, and an overwhelming emotion moves through you. A grief that isn't yours, something older and deeper than your own sorrows. Padre Pio regularly saw souls in purgatory during the celebration of Mass. He would say Masses lasting hours because, as he explained, he could see souls approaching the altar, pleading to be freed through the Eucharistic sacrifice being offered. More than once, after Mass, he told a parishioner, "Your mother was here during Mass. She's in heaven now." And the person would confirm they'd had that very Mass offered for their mother. Saint Catherine of Bologna, another great mystic, wrote of seeing during the elevation of the host souls in purgatory rising to heaven, freed by the power of the Eucharistic sacrifice that had just been offered. This seventh sign carries specific features. The first is an emotional intensity out of proportion to your mood beforehand. During Mass, you feel emotions that don't match how you were feeling minutes earlier. A burning desire to pray for the dead, an overwhelming compassion, a certainty that this Mass needs to be offered for someone specific. The second is sensing a presence during key liturgical moments, the consecration, communion, the final blessing. Not throughout the whole Mass, but at those specific moments when the veil between this world and the next grows thin. The third is the peace that follows. The experience during Mass can be intense, but afterward you feel a deep peace, a certainty that something important just happened on the spiritual plane. What should you do when you experience this seventh sign? First, offer your communion specifically for the souls in purgatory. When you receive Jesus in the Eucharist, tell him in your heart, "Lord, I offer this communion for the souls present here, in need of your mercy." Second, request specific Masses. If you sense a particular soul reaching out, arrange Masses for them. Third, spend time in Eucharistic adoration, offering that time for the souls in purgatory. Teresa taught that no suffrage carries more power than the Holy Mass. A single Mass does more for a soul's release than 1,000 prayers. That's why souls gather wherever the Eucharist is celebrated. That's why they make themselves felt during Mass, because they know that's where their freedom lies. But if sensing a presence during Mass already felt striking, get ready for what comes next. The next three signs are the most direct, the most tangible, the hardest to explain away that a soul in purgatory can produce. Once you live them, you won't have any doubt left that the spiritual world is absolutely real. Sign 8. Objects that move. You set your keys down on the kitchen counter. You step into the bathroom, come back 2 minutes later, and the keys are gone. You search the whole house for half an hour. You finally find them somewhere you'd never leave them. Or you're alone in your room and suddenly hear a sharp thud. A picture frame has just fallen off the wall for no reason. The nail is still firmly in place. No vibration, no draft. The frame simply fell. And it isn't just any frame. It's the photograph of your late father. This is the 8th sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. It may be the most unsettling of all because it reaches directly into the physical world. Tangible, visible, hard to explain away. It isn't something you feel or think. It's something you see with your own eyes, something physical that defies natural law. Teresa documented several cases of exactly this kind in her convents. In one of the more famous accounts, recorded in the Book of Foundations, a rosary belonging to a nun who had died kept turning up in places no one had left it. The sisters would put it away in a fixed spot, and the next day it would appear on the altar or in the choir or in some other nun's cell. This went on for weeks until the community finally offered 30 masses for that religious. After the 30th mass, the rosary stopped moving. These occurrences aren't limited to past centuries or convent walls. They happen today in modern homes with everyday objects. And Teresa taught how to tell when these events are genuine spiritual manifestations rather than simple human forgetfulness or natural phenomena. The first marker is the specificity of the object. It isn't just anything that moves or disappears. It's objects with particular meaning, photographs of the deceased, things that belong to them, gifts they once gave, items tied to their memory, a medal that was theirs, a book they loved, a piece of clothing they wore. The specificity rules out coincidence. The second is the physical impossibility of the event. The object was somewhere stable with no natural way to fall or move. Or it turned up somewhere no one could have placed it because you were home alone. Or it vanished from a locked room. Physics doesn't explain what happened. The third is timing. These events often happen on meaningful dates. The anniversary of the death, the deceased's birthday, special feast days like All Saints or All Souls. Or they happen right after you've been thinking intensely about that person, or in the middle of a conversation about them. The fourth, and this one matters, is the implicit message. The object that moves or appears carries meaning. If it's a rosary, the soul is asking for prayer. If it's a photograph that falls, they're trying to get your attention. If something disappears and reappears, they're demonstrating that a presence is active and needs recognition. St. John Bosco, the great educator, experienced this repeatedly. In one documented case, the shoes of a young man who had died kept turning up at the door of the oratory chapel. Staff would store them away, and by the next day, they'd be back at the chapel door. Don Bosco understood the young man's soul was asking for masses. After several suffrages were offered, the shoes stopped appearing. A family in Spain described how, after their grandmother's death, the pendulum clock she'd inherited from her own parents began stopping every day at exactly 3 in the afternoon. They had it repaired several times, and every clockmaker confirmed it worked perfectly. It kept stopping at 3 anyway. A priest finally suggested they offer masses for the grandmother at that hour. After 3 masses celebrated at 3 o'clock, the clock never stopped again. A man in Argentina described finding white rose petals in impossible places after his wife's death, inside closed books, on his pillow when he woke, on the seat of his locked car overnight. His wife had loved white roses. For 2 months, petals appeared almost daily. After 30 masses offered for her, they stopped. What's remarkable about this 8th sign is that it offers physical, objective evidence multiple witnesses can verify. It isn't subjective, something you could question. If an object moved, it moved. If it appeared where it shouldn't be, it appeared. The physical nature of it rules out imagination. Teresa warned about something important, though. Not every case of moving objects comes from a soul in purgatory. Some manifestations can have a demonic origin, especially if they come with intense fear, destruction, or clearly malicious elements. The key difference lies in the spiritual fruit. If the event draws you to prayer, moves you toward charity, leads you to offer suffrages, it's likely a soul in purgatory. If it paralyzes you with terror, pulls you from God, or produces destructive effects, it needs immediate priestly discernment. What should you do when you experience this 8th sign? First, stay calm. Remember, souls in purgatory can't hurt you. They only want your help. Second, document the event. Take photos if you can, note the date and time, record any witnesses. It'll help you spot patterns. Third, respond spiritually. When an object moves or appears, say out loud, "If you're a soul in purgatory in need of help, I'll offer masses for you. May God have mercy on you." Fourth, act quickly. Don't wait for more occurrences to pile up. Arrange masses right away. Pray specific rosaries for that soul. Offer communions for their release. And fifth, if the events continue after multiple suffrages, or if in any moment they cause you terror or say something contrary to the faith, consult a priest experienced in spiritual discernment. There may be additional factors that need pastoral attention. Teresa taught that when a soul turns to manifestations this direct and tangible, it's because their need is urgent and because they trust that you'll respond. It's an act of faith from that soul towards you. Don't let them down. But if watching objects move on their own already felt overwhelming, the 9th sign goes further still. Because what comes next involves your sense of hearing. It won't just be seeing things move, it'll be hearing something no human throat is producing. And once it happens to you, every cell in your body will know you just had an encounter with the other side. Sign 9, a voice that calls your name. You're home alone making dinner and suddenly you hear it, unmistakably clear. Someone just said your name. It isn't a vague or ambiguous sound. It's your name, spoken in a voice you recognize. A voice you haven't heard in months or years because it belongs to someone who's already died. You freeze, your heart races, you look around, and there's no one there. But you heard it as clearly as if that person was standing right behind you. Or you're drifting towards sleep, in that space between waking and dreaming, and you hear a whisper close to your ear. You can't quite make out the words, but you feel the urgency in it, the pleading, the need. It's as if someone is trying to tell you something important and can't quite get it out. The whisper repeats, night after night, always at the same moment, always with the same desperate intensity. This is the 9th sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. And it's one of the most shattering because it reaches your sense of hearing directly in a way that's hard to write off as imagination. You heard something, it was real. And even as your rational mind hunts for an explanation, your spirit knows the truth. Someone from the other side just reached out to you. Teresa lived this sign personally more than once. In her autobiography, she describes moments of prayer when she heard voices asking for suffrages, voices she recognized as coming from souls in purgatory. In one especially memorable instance, she heard the voice of a priest she had confessed to in life, begging her to offer masses for him. Teresa arranged the masses and never heard that voice again. This manifestation doesn't require being a mystic of Teresa's stature. Ordinary people with no special contemplative background have experienced it across the centuries. And Teresa taught how to recognize the features that confirm this isn't auditory hallucination, but a genuine communication from purgatory. The first feature is unmistakable clarity. It isn't a sound you could confuse with wind or the house settling or ambient noise. It's a human voice, clearly articulated. Often it's crisp enough you'd swear the person was physically present in the room with you. The second is recognizing the voice. In most cases, you know immediately whose voice it is. Your late mother, your brother, your grandfather. The tone, the inflection, the particular qualities of that voice are unmistakable. And that's exactly why it hits so hard. It isn't a generic voice. It's the specific voice of someone you loved and lost. The third is the content of the message when you can make it out. Sometimes it's just your name, other times a short phrase, help me, pray for me, don't forget me. The message always carries the same purpose, reminding you that this soul needs your prayers, your masses, your sacrifices. The force is the timing. These auditory manifestations often happen during quiet hours, early morning, late at night, during prayer, in moments of solitude. It's as if the soul takes advantage of the quiet, when there's less noise in the way, to cross the veil between the two worlds. Padre Pio didn't only see souls in purgatory, he heard them too. On numerous documented occasions, witnesses saw him carrying on audible conversations with souls no one else could see or hear. He'd answer them out loud, asking what they needed, promising masses. Testimonies from people who witnessed these scenes are abundant and well documented. Saint Gemma Galgani, the young Italian mystic, experienced this ninth sign often as well. In her diary, she describes hearing voices of souls in purgatory pleading for prayer, especially during her mystical ecstasies. She offered her own physical suffering for their release. But these testimonies don't come only from canonized saints. Thousands of ordinary people have lived exactly this. A woman in Mexico described hearing her late father's voice calling her name for 3 straight months, always at 2 in the morning. The voice was so clear that the first few times she got up thinking someone had broken in. A priest finally advised her to offer 30 masses for her father. After the last one, she never heard the voice again. A man in Italy described regularly hearing his late wife's voice whispering near his ear as he tried to sleep. He couldn't make out exact words, but felt urgency and pleading in them. After arranging Gregorian masses for her, the whispers stopped completely. What makes this 9th sign especially convincing is that it rules out any real possibility of it being something your own mind produced. You can imagine seeing something, you can misread a physical sensation, but it's much harder for your brain to manufacture an external voice so clear and specific it makes you turn your head looking for the source. Teresa warned, though, about something crucial. Just as with objects that move, not every voice you hear comes from purgatory. The demon can also produce auditory phenomena, especially voices that push you toward fear, despair, or away from God. The essential difference lies in the fruit. If the voice moves you to prayer, to charity, to offer suffrages, it's likely a soul in purgatory. If the voice terrifies you, says blasphemous things, pushes you towards sin, it calls for immediate priestly help. What should you do when you experience this 9th sign? First, stay calm and respond spiritually. If you hear a voice you recognize as belonging to someone who died, say out loud, "I hear you. I'll offer masses for you. May God have mercy on your soul." The soul will sense your response and find immediate comfort. Second, act quickly. Don't wait to hear the voice multiple times. From the first instance, start offering suffrages, arrange masses, pray rosaries, make sacrifices. Third, keep a record. Note each time you hear the voice, the date, the hour, exactly what you heard, the circumstances. It'll help you spot patterns, and it'll serve as evidence if you need to consult a priest. And fourth, if the auditory manifestations continue after multiple suffrages, or if at any point the voices cause you terror or say things against the faith, seek priestly help immediately. Discernment of spirits matters enormously in these cases. Teresa taught that when a soul resorts to manifestations, as direct as speaking audibly, is because their suffering is intense and because they deeply trust your ability to help. It's a spiritual honor, unsettling as it may be, to be chosen as an instrument of release for that soul. Now we reach the 10th and final sign, the most direct of all, the one that will erase any last trace of doubt you might carry about the reality of purgatory and the communication between the living and the dead. Get ready. What Teresa revealed about this final manifestation will change how you see the spiritual world for good. Sign 10, a figure you can see. It's nighttime. You get up for a glass of water. You walk down the hallway of your house, and there it is. A human figure, translucent but unmistakable, standing beside the bedroom door. It isn't a vague shadow. It isn't a trick of the light. It's a complete human shape, features you can make out. Your heart stops for a second. You blink, expecting it to vanish. It doesn't. And then you recognize who it is. Your aunt, who died 2 years ago. She's looking straight at you. She says nothing, but in her eyes you see a desperate plea. Then, in an instant, she's gone. This is the 10th and most striking sign Teresa identified as a manifestation of a soul in purgatory. Direct visual apparitions. It's no longer something you feel, hear, or sense. It's something you see with your own eyes. A visible presence, tangible on a visual level, that confirms beyond doubt that the spiritual world is entirely real. Teresa experienced multiple apparitions of souls in purgatory across her life. In her spiritual testimonies, she describes several of these encounters in detail. In one of the most moving, the soul of a priest who had recently died appeared to her. The soul begged her to offer masses, revealing that he was suffering intensely in purgatory for negligence in his priestly ministry. Teresa arranged the masses, and days later, the soul appeared to her again, radiant this time, to thank her and confirm he had been freed into heaven. These apparitions aren't reserved for saints and mystics. Across the centuries, thousands of ordinary people have lived exactly this experience, and the Catholic Church, far from dismissing these accounts, has carefully investigated them and confirmed their authenticity in numerous cases. Teresa taught how to distinguish a genuine apparition of a soul in purgatory from a hallucination, a demonic trick, or an optical illusion. The first marker is a recognizable human form. It isn't a shapeless mass of light or shadow. It's a human figure with identifiable features. Often you can recognize exactly who it is. The second is an expression of pleading. Souls in purgatory don't appear to frighten or threaten. They appear to ask for help. Their faces carry suffering, need, hope. Teresa described these apparitions as carrying an unspoken message. Please, help me. I need your prayers. The third is brevity. These aren't drawn-out encounters. They last seconds, sometimes barely an instant. The soul becomes visible just long enough to be recognized and to deliver its message, then disappears. Teresa explained that the effort required to become visible is enormous for a soul in purgatory, which is why they can't sustain the apparition for long. The fourth is the spiritual effect afterward. After the apparition, you don't feel paralyzing terror that pulls you from God. You feel awe more than anything, and an immediate urge to offer suffrages. The apparition moves you toward action, not toward the paralysis of fear. St. John Vianney saw apparitions of souls in purgatory with a frequency that astonished those around him. Witnesses documented multiple occasions when the curé conversed with figures only he could see, promising them masses and prayers. In several cases, after offering the suffrages, he confirmed to the families of the deceased that their souls had been released. St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, Apostle of the Sacred Heart, also experienced numerous apparitions of souls in purgatory. In her autobiography, she describes deceased nuns from her own community appearing to her, asking specifically that she offer her communions for them. She did, and the souls would appear again days later to confirm their release. Modern testimonies are just as abundant and well documented. A nurse at a hospital in Madrid described seeing, for years, the figure of an elderly nun appear regularly in a corridor on the 3rd floor. The figure was clear enough that several different nurses had seen her. Investigation revealed the building had once been a convent, and that a nun had died in that exact corridor without receiving the last rites. The hospital arranged masses in its chapel for her. No one has seen the apparition since. A man in Argentina described his late mother appearing at the foot of his bed 3 nights in a row, always at the same hour. The first night he thought it was a dream, but the following nights he was fully awake. His mother didn't speak, only watched him with a pleading expression. He arranged 30 masses for her. The night after the last mass, she appeared once more, smiling this time, at peace, grateful. Then she was gone and never returned. What's extraordinary about this 10th sign is that it offers direct visual evidence of Purgatory's reality and the possibility of communication between the 2 worlds. You can't call it imagination when you've literally seen, with your own eyes, a recognizable human figure that then vanished with no physical explanation. Teresa warned, though, about something crucial. Not every apparition comes from a soul in purgatory. The demon can also manifest visually and can even take on the appearance of someone who's died to deceive. The essential difference lies in the fruit and the content. If the apparition draws you toward prayer and leads you to offer suffrages, it's likely genuine. If it says things contrary to the faith, pushes you towards sin, or produces a terror that pulls you from God, it's demonic and calls for immediate priestly help. What should you do when you experience this 10th sign? First, invoke the name of Jesus. Say out loud, "Jesus, protect me." If the apparition is genuine, it will remain calm or fade peacefully. If it's demonic, it will flee at the name of Christ. Second, ask directly, do you need prayers? Who are you? Souls in purgatory will respond in some way even without audible words. Third, offer suffrages right away. Don't wait. Starting that same night, begin praying for that soul. Fourth, document the experience in as much detail as possible. The date, the hour, what the figure looked like, what it did, how long it lasted. And fifth, consult an experienced priest. Visual apparitions are extraordinary manifestations that call for serious pastoral discernment. What to do now? Now that you know the 10 signs Teresa identified, the most important question follows. What do you do with this? How do you actually help these souls? Teresa didn't only reveal the signs. She taught the answer too. The answer is clear, and it's backed by 2,000 years of Catholic tradition. The most powerful suffrage that exists for freeing a soul from purgatory is the Holy Mass. A single Mass carries more weight than 1,000 prayers because in it, Christ's own redemptive sacrifice on Calvary is made present. When you arrange a Mass for a specific soul, you're applying directly the infinite merits of Christ's passion to that soul. The second most powerful suffrage is a complete rosary offered specifically for a soul. Our Lady holds special power over purgatory. Saint Bridget of Sweden received the revelation that no soul for whom a complete rosary is prayed will remain in purgatory beyond the last Hail Mary of that rosary. The third are plenary indulgences applied to the souls in purgatory. Gaining a plenary indulgence in a state of grace and applying it to a soul can free them from purgatory instantly, no matter how much purification remained. The fourth are personal sacrifices, fasting, almsgiving, giving up something lawful and enjoyable, offered specifically for a soul. Teresa fasted regularly for the souls in purgatory and encouraged her nuns to do the same. And the fifth, which Teresa practiced constantly, is offering your communions for these souls. Every time you receive Jesus in the Eucharist, offer that communion for a specific soul in purgatory. The power to free them is immense. Teresa made an extraordinary promise. Whoever helps the souls in purgatory will never be abandoned in their own need. Souls once freed, once in heaven, become powerful intercessors for those who help them. There's no better spiritual investment than helping the souls in purgatory. Now that you know the 10 signs and how to respond, you carry a mission. Don't ignore these manifestations. Don't dismiss them as coincidence or imagination. Recognize them, respond to them, offer the suffrages they need. Become an instrument of divine mercy for souls who are depending desperately on your help. You've made it this far. You now know the 10 signs Teresa of Avila identified as genuine manifestations of souls suffering in purgatory. You can't say you didn't know anymore. You can't dismiss as coincidence or imagination what you now understand. Knowledge comes with responsibility. Teresa was absolutely clear on this. When God allows a soul to reach you through any of these signs, it isn't chance, it's a divine mission. That soul was entrusted to your spiritual care. You were chosen as the instrument of their release. And your response will decide not only that soul's fate, but the state of your own soul before God. Picture for a moment the suffering of these souls. They can't do a single thing for themselves. They can't offer a single Our Father that benefits them. They can't earn a single second less of purification. They're entirely dependent on divine mercy and on the suffrages of the living. They depend on you, on your masses, your rosaries, your sacrifices, your faithful memory of them. And now picture the eternal gratitude they'll carry once they're finally freed, thanks to your help. Picture that glorious moment when a soul leaves purgatory and enters heaven, knowing you were the instrument God used for their release. That soul will never forget you. They'll become a powerful intercessor for you before the throne of God for all eternity. Teresa promised something extraordinary. The souls we free from purgatory become our best friends in heaven. There's no better spiritual investment. Every Mass you arrange, every rosary you pray, every sacrifice you offer for these souls comes back multiplied. Grace for your own life, grace for your own eternity. So what will you do now? Keep ignoring the signs, keep writing off as coincidence what are clearly desperate calls from the other side? Or will you become what Teresa called a liberator of souls? Someone who gives part of their spiritual life to rescuing, from purgatory, those who need it most. The choice is yours. But remember Christ's words. The measure you give will be the measure you get back. If you help the souls in purgatory now, when your own time comes, legions of grateful souls will be interceding for you before God. If you ignore them, when it's you in purgatory, perhaps no one will answer your own pleas. Don't wait. Start today. Arrange a Mass for the souls in purgatory. Pray a complete rosary for them. Offer your next communion for their release. Make a small sacrifice in their name. And watch how your life changes once you become an instrument of divine mercy. If this video has opened your eyes to this spiritual reality Teresa revealed to us, subscribe to this channel for more teachings from the saints that will change your life. Share this video with the people you love so they can recognize these signs too and help the souls calling out to them. And check our other videos on devotion to the Holy Souls, where you'll find specific prayers, powerful practices, and testimonies that will confirm everything you've heard today. The souls in purgatory are waiting. They're suffering. They're calling out. And now you know how to hear them and how to set them free. Don't let them down. God bless you. May Saint Teresa intercede for you, and may the souls you free become your eternal protectors in heaven.